Motown Rundown. Today is Thursday, January 18th. And today we come to you for the first time ever to discuss a Detroit Lions playoff football victory. And we will preview a Detroit Lions divisional playoff game being hosted at Ford Field, which may not happen ever again. I shouldn't go down that road. But unbelievable. We're here on a Victory Thursday. I'm sorry we're bringing this to you a bit late. Ryan Rabinowitz here with Trent Bailey and Ryan Collins, as always. As much as I would love to do just Lions talk today, because I don't know if there's anyone in this city that cares about any of the other three teams we have, we do want to do our duty here on this podcast about covering all things Detroit sports, as we do bring you as our tagline on our social media pages, which you can follow us on Twitter at Motown_Rundown. We are also on Facebook at the Motown Rundown page. That's a little pro tip there, sneaking that in there early in the podcast in case people click off. But we're going to talk about some Wings and Pistons today. But for the most part, I mean, it's all Lions. And we'll get into all the theatrics that was probably one of the most memorable days of my life on Sunday. But before we do that, let's check in. Trent, how are you? You're back in Florida. Thank you for coming out all this way to experience the Lions win on Sunday. How are you? How are you feeling? You look great.
Thanks, Rabs. You look great too.
Thank you.
I'm feeling really good. That was a whirlwind of a 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever it was that I was in Michigan, but it was totally worth it. This has been the quickest week of my life. It's gone so fast. I can't believe it's Thursday already. Every day I wake up, I'm happy. I wear my Lions gear every single day. I get comments from people every single day. Today I was getting my hair cut, which was horrendous, by the way, but that's a whole different
situation. Can you take your hat off so I can see?
You won't be able to tell because
I can tell.
It's a helmet. She gave me a helmet, basically.
I can't tell.
I can tell on the top, TB. She fucked up on the top.
What's wrong with it?
Did she ever? No, she was just on drugs. She almost.
It's not that bad, Trent, but it's not. You can tell on the top. You can get that fixed pretty easily, though.
Yeah, I know. I'm just lazy, but
no, I know.
I get my hair cut like once a week. But anyways, I was sitting in the waiting room at the haircut place, and I have my Lions shirt on, and this old gentleman comes up to me and he says, "Go Lions." He's like, I'm not a Lions fan, but I'm from the Midwest and I'm rooting for you because this is awesome. And it just goes to show how great it was. It was a national story. I'm glad they finally got their due. Everyone kind of got to see what Ford Field can be like, what Detroit downtown can be like for a playoff atmosphere, and it was really awesome. But I'm feeling great. I'm on cloud nine, and we'll get to it when we get to it. But I think the Lions are going to be going to the NFC Championship game, and I can't wait.
Hooray. Collins, how are you?
I'm great. Sunday, great sports day. Very memorable. I'd probably say like top 10 of my life. I didn't go to the game, obviously. I was in Detroit. It was great. Just sweat out a Michigan State basketball game. Maybe one of the most, Tom Izzo is maybe one of the most frustrating human beings in my entire life. Like, he's given me so much joy and so much pain. It's just, and people are like, oh, Michigan State goes to the tournament every year. It's, as long as if you actually follow Michigan State basketball, it's painful. It's like, I genuinely don't enjoy watching their games. And I've probably missed like 10 in the last like 15 years. But like, I genuinely don't enjoy it. I probably should stop watching because it just makes me so mad. But side note, even talking positive things today, but also bet on this Illinois-Michigan game. If anyone hears me yelling during the taping of this recording or looking up on the YouTube, it's because I bet a large sum of money on Illinois to cover -2.5 against Michigan at Chrysler. There's about like 30% of the stadium full there. So hoping Illinois gets that finished. So Michigan's such a joke basketball program. I'm sorry.
It's great. I love it, Collins.
It's a joke, dude. I'm sorry. It bugs the shit out of me.
Is Michigan State making the tournament?
Yes. Whoever put out that article earlier in the week, they're probably like a 6 seed right now. I didn't understand that at all. They have legit maybe one bad loss. And like they play a bunch of, if they win like 4 out of 5, like it's they're gonna have to lose a lot of bad teams not to make the tournament. Point blank.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good to me. How should we attack today? Do we want to get Pistons and Wings out of the way so we can just
Yes.
Okay, so Collins, we'll let you go with this one because I'm about as apathetic as you can get. But the Pistons did make a trade. In my eyes, probably one of the most lateral trades you can make. You called it a cap dump, which is fine. But if you want to get into all of that, it is funny that two of the worst teams in the league traded with each other, being the Pistons and the Wizards. And for a team that seemingly doesn't have a lot of assets, I guess you'll have to explain to me why the Pistons decided to trade away 2 second-round picks in this trade. So, by all means, enlighten me on to whatever just went down. And for the majority of people listening to this podcast, we'll make sure to timestamp when we talk about at least the Lions, but the Lions and Red Wings, so you can fast forward through this next part of the podcast as quickly as possible. Not to take anything away from you, Collins, because what you're about
you
to say
just
is
did.
important.
That was crazy.
No, but no, I'm not. It's not in
Brian's
terms of
talk
you.
For 5 minutes. Go fuck yourself. Go wait. I'm talking for 2 seconds about this.
Go ahead. Tell us what you have to say.
So the trade's a cap dump. The Pistons are making a bigger trade in the next week and a half. I don't know what they're going to do. There's rumors that DeJounte Murray, if they do that, I don't think I will root for the team anymore. Because if they trade for DeJounte Murray, that probably means they're trading Ivy and someone else. And DeJounte Murray with fucking Cade makes 0 sense. I don't like that. I like the idea of getting Muscala and Danilo Gallinari get some shooting and a veteran big. I actually think that will help them. I don't know when Cade is supposed to get back from his injury. I think he's supposed to be evaluated today or tomorrow. So when you actually see this team with an actual the thing about this Pistons team is their starting lineup has not been that bad. It's their bench unit is historically bad, one of the worst bench units in the league. And if the starters don't have it that night, the game's legit over after the second quarter because you don't in NBA you don't roll your dice for 48 minutes. So last thing I would say, it's a cap dump. They're probably going to make a bigger move. I don't hate the trade. I like getting off the Bagley money. But the one thing people are like, oh, they're not have a lot of cap space this summer. They're not using this money for cap space. They will be doing it through a trade. I don't know when they do it. I don't know if they do it in the summer. You get off Bagley's 12.5 for the Danilo Gallinari's expiring. And I think Muscala's expiring too. So I don't hate the move. It's clearly a cap dump. I mean, it is what it is. The Pistons are pretty unwatchable when Cade doesn't play. I did watch last night. It's nice that Azar is starting to get some more minutes now. He looked really good last night. Ivy played his best game of the year last night. Still didn't matter. If you don't have Cade, this team's unwatchable. So that's it.
I'll throw this in there. One of the targets the Pistons were maybe looking at was Pascal Siakam. He got traded to the Pacers yesterday, so that's off the board.
I think that would have been a bad fit too.
Me too. Cade needs shooters.
To be honest, I think they're probably going to trade for Levine. And I don't know if I love it. They'll be better, but it doesn't move the needle.
Cade does need his running mate, and it's got to be a shooter who doesn't necessarily need the ball, and that's why Ivy doesn't really fit. But whatever, we've already talked about all that stuff.
If they get the thing with Levine, you're taking care of someone's issue because the Bulls don't want him. They won't have to move Cade, Ivy, Asar, or Durant. So that's the only appeal with bringing Levine. So,
and like Colin said, you cleared up the cap space so that you could then do that. I don't know. Like Colin said, I have no real. It doesn't move the needle for me at all. You get rid of Bagley. I don't have to watch him anymore for what it's worth.
Well, they weren't even playing Bagley. They were playing fucking Wiseman over Bagley, which made no sense because whatever is going on with Monty Williams, I mean, it should be a documentary. But we can move on. I don't want to go on about the Pistons.
Can I ask you guys a question as we move forward here? And it's amazing that I actually have a question about the Pistons. Number one, what would you like to see going forward in terms of the philosophy of this team? And number two, what is it that they are actually trying to do? And the reason why I ask this question is because I am in the camp that after all these years, and I don't know how many years Troy Weaver has been here, and one of the freezing cold takes of this podcast is when Trent said that Troy Weaver was doing the best job of any GMs here. I'm not here to rag on you, but the fact that Troy Weaver is still allowed to make decisions with the player personnel is beyond me. So my question to you is, what do you want to see happen? Because what this seems like to me is Collins, you just said that you believe the next move means that they might be trading Ivy. So to me, it sounds like they just paid Monty Williams all this money. And despite the fact that he's only won 3 games as the head coach of this basketball team, they are going to build this team to fit around the way that Monty Williams wants to coach and his philosophy. So if that's, and I say that because clearly him and Jaden Ivey don't see eye to eye as far as his play style is concerned. So what is going on? Like, you bring in these expiring contracts, you get rid of Bagley and Wiseman, who did Troy Weaver not just sign Marvin Bagley to an extension? So
Yeah.
like
It was a bad contract. I said it at the time. It was
you did, but like for him to be allowed to sign him to that deal and then immediately trade him for expiring contracts, and you lose draft capital in the meantime.
Second round picks don't matter in the NBA. So I will say
like,
that.
what are they trying to do? Are they rebuilding again?
They've obviously fucked up the roster. They're trying to make it more get more veterans around these guys, because they obviously have too many young players. They have too many centers. They're trying to get shooting. So the thing about it, and by the way, Ivy, the last 12 games, he has played a lot. And I don't think Ivy's going to get moved at this point. I really don't. If they try and get DeJounte Murray, I don't see a scenario how they wouldn't have to give Ivy or Asar away. And I think Asar is untouchable. You know what I mean? Like, I could see him move. Like, they're so bad. Like, I like Ivy, but if you got to make a move, you got to make a move. Rabs, their philosophy, I mean, he's built a horrible roster. So now he's trying to find some chemistry and whatever. And he shouldn't be the person who makes these decisions, Rabs. But they've signed a coach for 6 years, making the most money in NBA history. They're not going to fire him. So they're going to at least give this philosophy a try for the next year and a half, unless it continues to be a disaster. I don't agree with it, but that's just a fact of the matter. I'm not going to fucking bitch and moan all day about it that he should be fired and Doris. It's not like Doris is being cheap. He went out and spent fucking $13 million on the guy. He hired the wrong guy. Now they have to fucking figure this out. So I don't know what they do with the roster, Rabs. I saw something like Quentin Grimes. I would like that, little younger guys on the edges who's catch and shoot 3-and-D type of guy, because that's the type of guys they need in this roster. And just get Cade Howard. I can't emphasize, I say this every pod, and people are like, how good is Cade if they only have 3? Cade is really fucking good. He is really fucking good, and if he can stay healthy, he will be a top 15 player, maybe a top 10 player in this league. He is that good. He's he's huge. He's one of the best pick and roll guys. If you can create a roster that fits him, this team can win. He's that good. So as bad as the Pistons have been, I will continue to harp it. It's not, to be honest, if I'm a new GM coming into this situation, this is a better situation than when the fucking Weaver got here, obviously. And that's not saying a lot, but I'm like having a bunch of old guys on expirings, they have actual capital now. So and I'm not saying Weaver's done a poor job of constructing this roster. No doubt about it. I'm not saying that. But if you have Cade Cunningham, if you have Jalen Duren, and you have a guy like Asar who, if he gets like any sort of jumper, he's going to be a fucking star. So they have guys. So the problem is they're so bad, and that's not good for anyone, just losing. Like, you could say, you ask anyone who's on the Sixers, just losing, it has created a culture where it's fine. And that does not create championship culture, and that does not create winning teams. So I'm not saying that. So they got to make a move where you're going to win in the short term, but you don't blow up your future. Because you're going to have to pay guys like Cade. You're going to have to pay Duran. You know what I mean? Like, I think Asar has the top. I want Asar to get 25 minutes a game. I don't want an older wing taking his minutes, because I genuinely think he could be a star. So and it's an impossible task. And guess what? Weaver put him in this position. So if he fought, I'm fully fine with them firing him. Like, all the moves that he's made, Durant was a really nice move by him. Stewart was a good pick. Cade, first pick in the draft, not really a fucking ton there. I think Asar is a great pick. Like, he's drafted well. I think Sasser, not a bad pick. Like, they've drafted well. It's the stuff on the exterior they've done poorly on. So I think that is the only reason he still has a job. Because they have made nice moves in drafts and stuff. They have not made the one Blake Griffin trade yet. You know what I mean? Like, we're there, balls on the table. Like, we're going to try and do this, and this might give away our future for the next couple of years. He hasn't made that
trade. They better not do that because he hasn't earned jack shit worth of
No. I understand that, Trent, but that's why I think he still has a job.
Okay. Collins, I agree with you. I just,
and we don't need to debate
he better
this.
not do that move that sets you back 10 years because he hasn't earned the right to do that.
No, and they're not a position to do it. So,
and Collins, you gave Goris credit, and I also give Goris some credit for breaking open the bank and like not being cheap. He also doesn't care because if he cared, he would have fired Weaver 3 weeks ago. So
I agree. I agree. I'm just saying it is what it is. Let's just move on it because I don't want to fucking talk. I'd rather talk about the Wings because I've literally watched the last 8 Wings games other than the one they played on Sunday. And
red hot.
Last night was probably the biggest regular season win I've seen for the Wings in I can't even remember. That was a huge win last night.
Guys, I almost went too. It's about an hour and a half away from where I live. I almost went.
There was a ton of Wings fans. You could see it in the stands.
Yeah, always are too in Florida and those smaller markets. But I'm more than happy to talk about the Wings. We've neglected them for a bit. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10. They're on a 10-game heater right now. That other loss coming to Edmonton in overtime. Beat the Florida Panthers last night in overtime 3-2. A huge win indeed because that point is ginormous, that extra point to have. And now you move into third place in the Atlantic Division, which is great because if the season ended today, which I honestly, I hate when people do that kind of shit, but if the season ended today, which it doesn't because there's still half the season left to play, they'd be in a playoff spot. So
they got a bunch of game in hands on a lot of teams too. So
yeah, they do. They've played 44 games. Toronto's played 42. I still, for the life of me, can't wrap my head around how the Ottawa Senators have only played 39 games. It makes no sense to me whatsoever, but I digress. That's not important. As far as the standings are concerned, and this is why I say, like, and it's one of the great things about the NHL because of how much parity there is and how tight a lot of these races are, especially at the midway point. There's only one other division in hockey that the Red Wings would be in the top 3 finishers in that division if the season ended today, and that would be the Pacific Division. LA has 50 points in third place in their division. The Red Wings have 51. So with that being said, I mean, there's still a lot of work to be done, but for a team that's seemingly been in this weird purgatory as of late of, you're not able to secure top 3 to 5 draft picks. You're somewhere in the top 10 and you're also not competing for the playoffs. I mean, this is a good spot to be in. The shock factor in all of this is how these divisions have kind of aligned with the Atlantic Division. Really doesn't look like the scariest division in hockey anymore, with Tampa Bay and Toronto kind of being so. A huge win in Toronto the other night too, by the way.
During the fucking Lions game.
During the Lions game too. So a huge one there. I guess, I mean, Collins, whatever you want to talk about, I've been more focused on the Lions as of late. I mean, I think the storylines here are what a surprise Alex Lyon has been. I mean, Ville Husso for the last couple of years has looked like your number one guy, or at least was brought over to be your number one guy. But it seems like the Red Wings have kind of adopted this philosophy of Alex Lyon as our guy until he's not, which I'm totally fine with.
He's been great.
He has been. And there's no reason to really go away from him. I mean, I know they have, James Reimer, who's that third goalie on the roster. And I think this is kind of the best case scenario that Steve Yzerman had maybe hoped, that you find something in Alex Lyon, whether he's, your backup or your starter, and you can roll with him and Ville Husso and feel comfortable with it. Patrick Kane's out for a couple games here. I know when he went out of the Toronto game, people were concerned about, oh God, here comes the hip. But as Coach Derek Lalonde said the other day, the hip is not the issue for Patrick Kane. So hopefully he's been back soon. And his point production has been all you could hope for in his tenure with the Red Wings. And he just adds that element of of creation to this offense that has needed it significantly, and a plus 12 goal differential for a team that I feel like in the last decade or so, or maybe just shy of a decade, has really struggled to keep the puck out of their net and has struggled to score. So it's nice to see that the tide has kind of turned in that matter. Andrew Kopp's been on a nice little point streak here. I don't remember, as far as last night's concerned, if he had a point in that game against Florida. But nonetheless, I mean, they're in a good enough spot for me to be happy with the team, and at least it being an LCA, the last handful of home games, I mean, it's packed. If it's not, there's been several games where there's not a single ticket left to be had in the arena, which I guess is all you can ask for. So, you're still you're a little bit of ways here from the All-Star break. And I guess from there, you just have to keep winning games. It sounds so cliche and so like a great analysis, but these other teams around you between Toronto and Tampa Bay, they're not going to go quietly. These other teams that you're going to have to compete for a wild card for, it's not like you have a ton of gap between yourself and a team like Pittsburgh, who I don't think is in a playoff spot right now in terms of within their own division, but it's not going to be easy. So I think the thing that helps this team is how deep they are. And you just have to keep picking off teams. I mean, you look at a team like Boston, who's first in your division. I think Boston has 26 or 27 wins compared to your 23. I mean, what it comes down to is they're just forcing more games to overtime, and they're racking up a couple more overtime losses than you've had. But I mean, look, there's no easy games in the NHL. It's proven by, some of the ugly losses that you've had this year. But nonetheless, you're right in the mix. We're talking about a team that's in a playoff spot as of today. So it's been fun. I don't know, Collins, if you have anything else to add, Trent. I mean,
Rasmussen, he had a really big game yesterday. He has turned into a really nice power forward for them, giving them a lot of nice ice time. The defense is still shit. I mean, Lyon is covering it up. Like, Lyon has been great. I think you almost undersold how good Lyon's been. He was great last night. Yeah. And there's still too many odd man rushes. That's the thing that just kind of holds this team back. Like, they have the forwards. Like, if you watch this team, you're like, I like them on the power play. Like, they generate enough chances to be a really good hockey team. That back end is just so tough. And, like, you're going to have to ride Lyon or Husso when he comes, because your goaltending doesn't have to be really good for this team to make the playoffs. That's the one thing. Unless they're going to start getting better defensemen out of this, or Edvinsson comes up and something changes. Like, someone's going to have to pick their play up in that bottom four. And so, I'm not acting like Seider's this great defenseman right now, because he hasn't been. So, defense has got to be better.
Yeah, I don't really know what the the Sherratt and Petrie pairing is enough to make you want to bang your head against the wall. But it is a bit surprising, some of these numbers, and I do have to give credit to Michael Rasmussen, as you said. I mean, I think in Rasmussen, I want to say him and Berggren are the last two Ken Holland picks that are on this team. And I think if you're looking at guys, depending on where they're at come the trade deadline, I could see both of those guys being guys that end up being moved. I want to say that Rasmussen, if this isn't the last year of his deal, he has one more. But I mean, for a guy that has seen his role decrease significantly, and deservedly so is not the right way to put it. I think it has been a benefit to Michael Rasmussen with the role they're trying to use him as, is not an overtly physical presence for a guy of his size, but I really like him on the wing. He's played in all 44 games this year. He's right in the middle of the pack of your team with 20 points in 44 games and playing about 15 minutes a night. He also, I want to say, leads the team tied with Olli Maatta with plus minus at being a plus 12. So that in itself is wonderful to have, especially a guy that's playing, middle six to bottom 6 minutes. Outside of that, though, I mean, you're right, Collins. I think defense is obviously where you have to look to this team and kind of scratch your head a bit. And there's certain aspects, and I know they're trying to play around with different line combinations and whatnot. And we've always kind of talked about this team as maybe more so in the Jeff Blashill era about these lines being put in a blender night in, night out. But things like Lucas Raymond being a -14 is not tremendous. I mean, I know you can't lean on every guy to be to be defensive studs, but Lucas Raymond being a -14 is not great. But I mean, you'll take its 34 points in 44 games. I've said for a while that this team's going to go as Lucas Raymond goes, and maybe you like to see a bit more goal production out of him with only 12 goals in 44 games. But I mean, somewhat being on place to almost being a point per game player is great. So other than that, I mean, I think Sprong has had a nice season with 28 points in 44 games. JT Confer's been a tremendous addition as well. So I mean, they're deep, man. There's just no one that blows you off the page as far as that top end talent. I mean, you know, between DeBrincat and Larkin and Patrick Kane kind of carry the load. But I also would have to say another tremendous signing that has been great for the Red Wings is Shane Gostisbehere. People will debate you all day long on how useful plus minus is a statistic, and I probably think it's more useful than the next guy. But 30 points in 43 games for him. He's been tremendous on the power play, so nice piece there. But again, Collins, you said it comes down to goaltending, and Alex Lyon's the guy right now until he's not. So all good here for me. It's been exciting to watch these guys play. You know, between him and Huso. Right now, Alex Lyon's the guy you got to go with. 2.54 goals against average here, 923 save percentage. So, yeah, it's been good, man. I guess we'll have to see going forward, but a lot of season left. So, anything else on Wings before we move along here, fellas, to get to the main event?
Nope.
All right.
They're fun to watch.
Here we go. They're fun to watch. I'll
all
tell
I
you another
got.
team that's fun to watch. Your Detroit Lions. There's a couple ways I want to attack this. We didn't really get into a pre-show as far as what we want to do. I want to talk about everyone's Sunday and get your perspective on that. We can briefly talk about Matthew Stafford before I am finally ready to tell you on this podcast that I don't think there is a reason to talk about Matthew Stafford again until he comes back to Detroit next season, and we can talk about what his reception will be like again. And then from there, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I certainly don't think there's a reason to talk about him on this podcast ever again. So, and then we'll obviously get into the game, and we can talk about this game going forward about the Bucs. I don't mean to be selfish to start, but as far as how my Sunday went down, it's always nice to have things to look forward to in life. And I think that it makes time go by. It makes your work week go by. It just gives you that extra pep in your step, knowing that, you know, you have friends, that you have time with friends to look forward to. You're going out to eat with your parents this weekend. In this game on Sunday, and I feel the exact same way with this week. Time has just flown by. Like the fact that we're having this conversation now on a Thursday, and when this podcast is over, I'm going to tuck myself into bed tonight and wake up, and then it's Friday, and essentially we have the weekend here. It has been so awesome to look forward to Lions football every single week. And I'm sure at some point in this podcast, I can already feel myself getting emotional, and that's not my intention. But last week was awesome. And the thing that honestly makes it great is that I get to turn the radio on every day, and I sent you guys this long Snapchat message today of how disgusted I am with certain radio personalities in this town. I won't go down that rabbit hole, but to turn the radio on every day and listen to people talk about the Lions, and it was great. It was great leading up to the wild card game. But to win that game and to continue to keep playing and have more football ahead of us is the greatest gift that I could ever ask for. And Collins, you made mention that this was a top 10 sports day for you. And I am going to give everyone their time to talk about what the day meant to them. But this was a one-of-one day in my life of sports moments. And maybe just like when I say best day of my life, it's up there, man. And everything from just to give you a taste of what it meant to me, I mean, I wake up in the morning and if you guys can't tell, I shaved down to the goatee in homage to our head coach, Dan Campbell. I went to Starbucks and then I ordered his venti Pike Place with 2 extra shots of espresso. I mean, I was in it. I was in the thick of it all. And Sunday from start to finish, from wake up to end, I could not believe, like, it was like the longest day of my life, and I enjoyed every second of it. I mean, I don't think I got home until 2:30 in the morning because post game, as I'm getting ahead of myself, I mean, I was out with Trent and Brock and Miles and Tino and Steve and Brock's girlfriend, Bailey. We were out until 2 o'clock in the morning. And it was like, I couldn't believe leaving the stadium that it was, I told Trent as we were walking to the bar, I'm like, some kid next to me walking out was like, did the Eagles play tonight? And I'm like, buddy, it's fucking 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And you got people like Ryan Collins that had been downtown since 1 p.m. It was awesome. The coldest day of the year, the coldest day of the winter. I get down there, even probably later than I wanted to at 3:30, 4 o'clock. It was an absolute clusterfuck trying to find you guys. I had other friends downtown. I didn't want to walk around in the cold. But I went to a tailgate for a friend of mine that I play softball with. Unbelievable. The pulled pork, the hot dogs, the brats, the buffalo chicken dip, the booze. It was great. And finally I'm like, I have to fucking go inside. And that's when I went to the stadium. I think it's 6:30. I take that back. It was probably closer to 5:30 because I texted you guys.
It
Like
was.
I might have been one of the first guys in the stadium. And I would tell you immediately, it was just so awesome to see when you get in the stadium, there was already like 10,000 fucking people in there as soon as you got in. And everyone, like, as soon as they scanned their tickets, people screaming and cheering because of how much energy there was. And I know it was cold, and that's why people got in there. But I think the one thing that goes underrated is just how busy the city of Detroit was. And this is one of the things that like I get emotional about, because for a city that gets constantly overlooked and free agents don't want to come here, and people that don't visit Detroit and have not gotten to really see Detroit on the national scale because of how bad the teams have been, it is a top 3 to 5 sports city in America. And I will take that to my grave. And it obviously helps when the teams are great. But it's really the first time in a long time that you're walking down the street and it's shoulder to shoulder at Harry's and Union Assembly, which really isn't like a bar. There's a line out the door, and there's a line out the door at Bookies, and there's a line out the door at fucking JoJo's Shake Shack, because people are just looking for a place to drink and gather, and people are still tailgating even though it's 0 degrees outside. So just to see the city that had all these people downtown was probably my favorite part of the day. And we'll talk about the game, but I mean, I think that from being at the game, hats off to the Detroit Lions, because this was the best production of a game day atmosphere that I had seen. From the power hour was buzzing. They gave everyone those wristbands, the light up stuff. You saw they set a Ford Field record for noise, but the pregame intro video to Cinderella Man,
Yes.
to showing Eminem. I mean, it was the greatest. It was the greatest fucking day ever. And I apologize for swearing, but it's the only way that I know how to get my point across. And just the fact that they won the game, as we'll get into, because again, I do want to talk about the Stafford thing and I want to get your guys' take on Sunday, but to share that with my brother. And I'm so happy that now this Sunday, my dad is going with my mom, who I don't think my mom has ever been to a Lions game. But
it sounded like you were salty when you texted us, by the way.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't.
It came off that you were salty in the text.
No, my dad's whole thing, and I get he's in a tough situation. If it were up to me, my dad and I should be going to every game. But it's a tough situation he's in, because he's got 2 sons that love the Lions equally. So it's like, who do you choose? So my mom was the nice cop out, and I'm glad she's going to get a chance to go. But it was awesome. I mean, people were crying. Trent, your brothers were crying. I get it. I actually
Great video of Trent. Great video of Trent. By the way, Trent. By the way, I'll let Trent talk about this. Why did you have a cutoff on?
I knew you were gonna say. I knew you were gonna ask that.
Great. Trent,
you take off all your clothes?
Break it down.
No, here's what happened. I knew I was gonna be a mess. I knew I was gonna be a sweaty, gross.
Are you a sweaty guy?
No, but I just knew I was gonna be intense, and I was, and thank God, because Tino was in front of me with a sweatshirt on. He turned around at one point, is like, he points at my cutoff. He goes, "That's the move right there." Because I was very comfortable.
I had my winter coat.
The thing about it, Trent, did you? I'm assuming you had like a winter coat on and whatever. And
yeah.
And then you took. How many layers did you have to take off to get to the cutoff?
None. I just had the cutoff with my varsity jacket over it, like the Lions varsity jacket. And then I'll roll into the whole
like minus 10 degrees, dude.
Oh, I froze my ass off. We'll get there. But so I flew into DT, what is it? DTW, sorry. I flew in there at it was like 7:00 on Saturday. Brock Bailey and Miles picked me up from the airport. It was awesome. Instantly just buzzing. Great to see my brothers. And
you guys go home to Granville?
No, we went to Bailey's. Bailey lives in Canton. So
I didn't know that.
We went to Bailey's. We instantly had a great night. Just vibes were high, feeling good. Next day, wake up, mimosas, Michigan State hoops. Everything's awesome. We're starting to get it rolling. Brock's car is stuck in the street because the snowplow came by and the snow is just packed up against Brock's car. It took us probably 10 minutes to get Brock's car out of the road and off and running. And of course, our first words once we got the car running was "That's grit." And it was great. Then we never looked back. We got downtown. We walked to Comerica Beer Hall. We waited in line for about a half hour. I froze my dick off. But, we went into Beer Hall. That was a good time. And then as soon as doors opened at 5:30, we went over to Ford Field. And like Rab said, it was just absolutely buzzing. And everyone's kind of said their piece on that. You've seen all the videos on social media, so I don't really need to do it justice, but I'll try. Everything, like you said, Rabs, Lions get an A+. They get high marks, checked every single box. They did awesome. They had Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers come out and do a drum solo. They're showing Eminem on the big screen. They're showing Barry. They're showing Calvin. They're showing Big Sean. Everything is perfect. Then lights go down. Cinderella Man to the video was.
You could not
have picked a better song. You couldn't have picked a better song because the whole idea of that song is no one believed in us, and here we are. And then for the team to run out, and it was just absolutely dream scenario, by the way, of offense getting the ball first, going down, driving, hot knife through butter, touchdown, what you've seen all year from this Lions offense, and we'll get into the game later. But then Matthew Stafford runs onto the field, and everyone's booing, and it was just so loud. But I want to say this before we go to Collins and then get to the game. I'm very glad this team is getting, or the city is getting, a second home playoff game. It was written. It was destiny. It's karma. I don't want to do the whole Cowboys thing again, but I'm excited for this reason, not just because the Lions get to play at home, but because the city gets another chance to have a home playoff game when it's not negative 10 degrees outside. And I know it's not going to be warm on Sunday. It's going to be 24 degrees, but at least it won't be, that's a 30-degree difference to what it was last Sunday. So I expect it to be just as busy, if not more. And it was awesome. And the last thing I'll say is this. I always said, I'm 24 years old. I'm not married. I don't have any children. So the best day of my life was when Michigan State beat Michigan. It was when Kenneth Walker.
Yes, I was going to say, dude, that's that's up there with me, but this was number one.
I just want to say that was the best day of my life. It was my senior year of college. The reason it was the best day of my life was because I got to spend that entire day looking forward to something that makes my heart very happy, something that is in my soul, which is sports, Michigan State, Detroit sports. And I got to spend it with my best friends in one of my favorite places. And I got to experience a great win with my brothers. And I checked all those boxes times 10 in Detroit on Sunday. Thank you very much. That was the best day of my life. And if the Lions win on Sunday, I won't be in Detroit, so it'd be hard to top the day itself. But very fortunate that I was able to be there. I can't thank my bosses enough for letting me go back. And, as much as it pains me to not be there this Sunday, I know that Brock is going to take my dad. Those guys are going to have the best day of their life. It's just
I was about to say, TB, did your dad go?
no, he didn't. He's going this weekend though, so he's
Okay,
going
nice.
with Brock this weekend.
Nice.
Miles is back in Nashville now. I'm back in Florida, so we're not doing the whole rendezvous again. We saw the win; it was great, and now
So you're selling your two, right?
I am. Yes.
There you go, man.
Oh.
You probably make your flight back, right?
Oh wait, yeah. I mean, the tickets are
So
going.
it kind of worked out perfectly.
You're looking at like 700 a piece at least. So
Yeah.
they're yeah. I mean, and again, I'm not just doing it for the money. I'm just doing it.
No, I
because
know you can't. Yeah, I know you can't do it 2 weeks in a row. That's almost impossible for you.
I mean, I couldn't afford to go in the first place. My family helped me out, so that was great. I'm glad that I was able to go. So, anyways, it was the best day of my life, Collins. Best day of my life.
I'm happy to hear that, boys. And I can't imagine what it was like in the stadium, and we'll talk about the game and stuff. But I mean, Detroit sports-wise, just Michigan State's a little bit different for me. It's a little bit more family thing. We're in the like me. I did.
Yeah.
No bigger sports moment. I don't know my entire life will ever top the 2013 Big Ten title game. Getting to watch that with like my dad and watch my dad legit cry and getting to go to the Rose Bowl. Like, I don't know if I ever will like think of a sports thing like that ever again. 2019 when we beat Duke was up there, just like Trent said, with all my best friends and my favorite place in the world. It's up there. Kenneth Walker up there too. I wasn't in school, but I was there that day. Detroit sports, this is right up there. I mean, this is right up there. I would say Mad Leo probably is one, and I was a young fellow for that. And going to the 2012 World Series is up there too. When JV Game 5, I think, against Oakland, that was one of my favorite ones. But it's right up there. And I had to go. I went to Old Shillelagh, got there at like 1 o'clock. Was there watching the state game. Gridiron came into Old Shillelagh and sang Gridiron Heroes twice. And it reaffirmed everything I knew about Gridiron, that guy's showing up to the games hammered.
As he is good. I've always had this theory that he lip syncs when he's in the stadium. Is he as good?
Oh, dude. I almost had a tear in my eye when I saw him on the stage. I was fired up. It was unbelievable. It was a great day. Energy in the city. It was kind of weird, though. It was so fucking cold. And we were going to meet up outside, but it was so cold. There wasn't a lot of heat. It's almost
that's the other thing. I mean, RC was there all day, and it really threw a monkey wrench in that it was -10 because you couldn't go anywhere and wait out. You couldn't wait 15 minutes in line. That was a deal breaker.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we were going to meet at Comerica, and then Trent was like, "We're not doing that." So I was like,
we waited for a half hour. I would hate for you guys to do that.
They should legit do that every game. It's a great idea. To open up like the outfield.
Yeah, it was full. Well, no, it was just that beer hall. Like everything was closed. They didn't have anything open. It was just you entered on
Trent, for like when the title season end. Like you put some vendors there. You open up the gates. That's a great. That would be a great spot to tailgate for the game. They should do that. It actually made sense.
Yeah, it does.
But it was awesome. The way they play. I mean, you guys have talked about the environment, but it was a great day, great sports day, and especially for us, we haven't had a lot of these past. Like you said, Kenneth Walker was probably the last time I was truly happy that day until this Sunday. So
yeah.
No, we're guys who live and die with our sports team, so that's just point blank. So it was awesome. Yeah, getting my text from my Aunt Mary Jo was like, "This is fucking awesome!" Like, just text me all like shit like that. It was great. So, and I can't imagine what it was like in that stadium. And I mean, I had buddies who were there, lifers with their families and stuff, and they said everything the same thing. It was just different, and you have to experience it. Like, there's nothing better than that. There's nothing better than you see the guy crying, and then you see the story about how his dad was an iron worker at Ford Field. He died when he was like 14, and it just every time he watches the Lions, he feels like he's 14 again with his dad. Like, if that shit doesn't make you well up a little bit, that's why we love fucking sports. That's why I fucking go back fucking 6 times a year and watch a 2013 Big Ten championship game. That's why I go back and watch a 2009 Final Four all the time. Because guess what? That shit like almost brings me to tears because it reminds me of like great moments with my family and friends. And Sunday was truly one of those. And the thing that's exciting about it is even more exciting about it. I think this team has an opportunity to do even more special things and create more special memories for this city. So it's really exciting, and it was a great day on Sunday.
One last thing that I want to say about the atmosphere, and I promise this will be quick, but seeing all the ex-Lions, the Stephen Tulloch, the Matt Prater, the Kerryon Johnson, Golden Tate, that was awesome. Because you have your obvious Calvin, Barry, Herman Moore, obviously Lomas is up in the booth. You have those. Those are like shoo-ins. But to see those guys coming back and paying, I mean, they're
Kerryon Johnson.
yeah, he's a customer. Like he paid for his tickets. Like he's sitting there and
I think they have a deal if you're a former NFL player where you get some sort of. They're not paying like what we're paying for it,
I'm sure.
Well,
yeah, still, it's awesome to see those guys. Matt Prater was there.
Glover Quinn was there throwing
Matt
t-shirts.
Prater's still in the league.
I wanted to bring
team.
I was leading to this. I saw Jason Hansen at the Power Hour, and I went up to him, and I shook his hand, and I took a picture with him.
That is such a loser fan base move. Hansen, the best kicker we had when we were terrible for 20 years.
He's our leading scorer. He's our leading scorer in franchise history. I went up to him. I shook his hand. Miles and I took a picture with him. And I mean, this, again, Collins, to double down on what you just said, all-time loser fan. I, wanted to look him in the eye and just say, you don't understand how much I appreciate you. I want to, kiss your right leg right now. Your right leg won us many games, and we didn't win that many games growing up. Yeah. So I love you, and I'm so glad you're here. But it was that big of a deal.
What's it called? There's a lot, I mean, between the Corey Schlesinger and the Jason Hansen jerseys you see every Sunday at Ford Field, it's a shocking amount. That just tells you how bad those teams were in the early 2000s.
Yeah, and so I just wanted to bring that up, too. Cheers to Jason Hansen and all the ex-Lions that came out to support. We can finally get around to the game if you guys want to. My bad.
Yes.
Yeah, let's talk about the game. I am so beyond. Well, should we talk about Stafford for real quick, or should we just mix it in?
No, mix it in after the game because I think we can do the reaction more after that. I think it works with.
Let's recap the game, then do Stafford, then do the picks.
Okay, yeah. Fair enough. So 24-23 win over the Rams, obviously. Jared Goff, 22 for 27 through the air, 277 yards and a touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown, stop me if you've heard this one before, 7 grabs for 110 yards. David Montgomery, your leading rusher, 14 carries, 57 yards, and 1 touchdown. I do want to say as well, and this man, person, or thing has since deleted their YouTube comments, but we did have on our first ever YouTube video, which is picking up a little bit of steam. We appreciate it. Go at Motown Rundown on YouTube. You can watch all of our episodes from here on out on there. Some Rams fan had a crazy manic episode and had 10 comments of almost incoherent English about how the Rams and Kyron Williams isn't getting enough. That was his whole thing was Kyron Williams. You don't understand that. Kyron Williams had 1 catch for 9 yards and 13 carries for 61 yards. So I would love whoever that person is that commented, if you're listening this week, and I hope you are, you can suck my balls. Apologies to the children listening for whatever you tried to spew at us about. You guys don't understand how good Kyron Williams is, and Detroit's going to find
out. He also got hurt, so it's kind of.
Oh, give me a break. He fucking came back. He also took the cart to the locker room for a hand injury.
Rebs, you were at the game. He was hurt.
I saw that. He took the cart to the locker room for a hand injury, which was soft as shit. But anyway, so that guy, good call by you, buddy, for how Kyron Williams impacted the game. That was real sweet. Anyway,
if we get any comments, you're just going to go right back at the commenters every episode?
No, he was the only guy that commented, and he deleted every single comment after we beat him. So, I mean, I'm full on receipts. Anyway, as far as the game is concerned, I am so glad, and we talked about this before the game, I think, Trent, I'm so glad the coin toss worked the way that it did, because I think it was the perfect storm for the Lions to get the ball, go get your 7, and then when Matthew Stafford and the Rams come on the field, that boo had to have been 10 decibels louder than I think it would have been if the Lions would have gone down and not scored, or the Rams, would have gotten the ball first. So the first 3 drives for the line, I mean, the game as a whole, to go down and get 7 your first 3 drives, and the entire difference of the game was made that the first drive the Rams had, you held them to 3. And as bad as the defense might have been from a statistical standpoint of looking at guys like Puka Nacua and his numbers in the one big play you gave up, the one big touchdown pass, as bad as they looked on that front, which we can get into all that as well, there were 2 or 3 stands, I think, when the Lions held the Rams to field goals that made all the difference in this game. So credit to the defense from that standpoint, because the offense did completely essentially shut off in the second half. I think in the second half, they only had 3 points, and it was the Badgley field goal, which, I mean, kudos to whoever made the move. And who knows if Riley Patterson's in that spot, if he makes that kick. But I want to tell you, without looking it up, since Badgley has been brought back to this team off the practice squad, I feel like he's only attempted 1 field goal from like 30-something yards. So to nail that 54-yard bomb that every ball he kicks is like a fucking knuckleball, that was the play of the game, because you only win by 1 point, and just a phenomenal in a huge spot that could have sucked all the wind out of the stadium if he doesn't make that field goal. So the bottom line to me is the Lions made plays when they had to. And this is a team that historically doesn't make those plays. So between the defensive stands where you hold the Lions to 3, going for it on 4th down, and even down to where you're about to head into victory formation, and I'm up in the stands in 344, like, what the fuck are they doing? Why aren't they running the ball? But they make 2 huge throws to, I think, either Amon-Ra had both, or it was Amon-Ra and Josh Reynolds, who Josh Reynolds had a fantastic game as well. Just those winning plays, and not playing to lose, or not playing to not lose, but playing to win. They made those little plays in spite of a couple chintzy calls too here from the refs, of like the false start they called on a blatant offsides that could have given the Lions a first down. Like, they overcome all the things like that. And it just goes to show you, if there's not a true brand new Lions against one of the hottest teams in the NFL coming into the playoffs, it was great. I don't care they won by 1 point. And we said last week that if you had the Rams plus 3.5, plus 4, whatever, you were probably on the right side of it, because you knew that was the kind of game it was going to be. But they played as good as they could, and as good as they had to. So,
go ahead, Collins.
Dolph was fucking awesome. It was the best game I thought Dolph played all year. Biggest moments. Took care of the football. Offensive line was great again. I mean, Josh Reynolds' revenge game. My buddies were all joking about it when we were drinking our old Shillelagh. Josh Reynolds' revenge game. And he had a really nice first half there. It felt like everyone who went to the game felt a little bit different than the people who watched it with me. Everyone who went to the game was like, that second half was fucking awful. Everyone kind of know what I'm saying? And everyone who watched it, you're like, they moved the football, this thing, know what I mean? It felt a little bit different. It was a little bit faster moving. When you're in there, you just feel the tension, so I get it. I don't think it was that bad in the second half. You go back and watch it. But Amon-Ra proved what he does. Clutch player. He was fucking awesome. Campbell, I mean, just great coach. Well-coached game. He hit every right button. Every single right button. I questioned him on taking – I wanted that 4th and 5. I didn't want him to accept that penalty. Cashed in. Great decision by Campbell. Going for it on the 4th yard on 4th and 1 and doing a drop back pass, which was I was like, what the fuck? He stood in that pocket, and I don't know what angle you guys had where you could see him like wide open, but the TV angle, I'm like, what the fuck is this play call? And it worked out. So I mean, great, well coached game by everyone. I mean, the defense kind of got shredded, but I thought Stafford was fucking incredible.
He was great.
He was.
It's one of the best games I've ever seen Stafford
And he was
play.
almost murdered in front of his wife and kids, and he's just the toughest motherfucker on the planet.
He was fantastic. And I don't know, in the stadium, I thought we got a lot of pressure the entire game. I really did. No, I thought Stafford just beat you when you blitzed them. So I don't know how they adjust with Baker, because I think if you blitz Baker, you're going to get more opportunities, because he's just not the player Stafford is. Stafford was fantastic in that game. But the thing about it, Jared Goff was too. So Everyone pointed to the QB matchup. They were both great. And the Lions were just the tougher team, point blank, and they got it done. And they were the better coach team because McVay, they had to use those 2 timeouts, partly to the Ford Field crowd. I'll never call a time. You know me. That's like my biggest pet peeve in football. They do all this analytic shit. When people call fucking timeouts for 5 yards and a false start or a delay of game, unless it's in the red zone and a 4th down or something, it makes no sense to me. It's one of the dumbest things in football, and people continue to do that. So I don't know. I'm just looking forward to this weekend because last weekend they just played. That was a well-played football game. That was a great game on both sides of the football, and they looked like one of the best teams in football, especially what I saw last weekend.
Yeah, not a single thing that I disagree with that you guys just said, so I'll make this somewhat quick. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 7 catches, all for first downs. I don't know if you guys knew that. Every single catch he made was a first down. How locked in is that guy? Josh Reynolds, probably the perfect time to appreciate how solid he's been really for the last 3 seasons. He's not a number 1, he's not a number 2, but he's a safety net. Him and Goff have rapport going back to LA, and he's got great hands. His PFF grades are always awesome. So good for him. The O-line, I thought, did a great job keeping Aaron Donald out of the game. I think you could get more of a run push in the second half, but, we'll take it. Like Colin said, they still were able to move the ball in the second half, just not put points up. I still would like to see some mixed drives with Monty and Gibbs. And
I agree.
Gibbs
was awesome.
Rabs and I had a whole discussion about this
on the way to Temple Bar,
game,
which we later found out was a gay bar, which is fine.
Temple Bar is not a gay bar, by the way.
Dude.
Have you been? I've been to Temple Bar a bunch. What are you talking about?
It doesn't matter either way. But
have you guys ever seen Detroiters?
Yes, that's why we were there.
That's why we went.
Yeah,
I've never seen
we went. Because Brock and Miles were like, we got to go to Temple Bar. Anyways, not the point. Rabs and I had a whole discussion walking from, Ford Field to the Temple Bar about Ben Johnson and the lack of sizzle and whatever. It's just, I just would rather see, and again, I'm not going to bitch about it too much because they won and they continue to win. Like, they're favored by a touchdown here on Sunday against Baker, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I just would like to see Mixon and Monty and Gibbs. Put your best players out there for the situation. And lastly, Sam Laporta is what this team's all about. I understand he wasn't at 100%. For him to be active, for him to rub some dirt on it, get out there, catch a touchdown, like Colin said, on a 4th and 1. I mean, that's what this team is all about. Sam Laporta. He gave a great interview on the Rich Eisen show the other day. Go check it out. I highly recommend it. It's about 10 minutes of Sam Laporta just being a class act.
Rich Eisen is such a sad state of affairs. Because I used to just love Rich Eisen, and him just being the biggest Michigan loser has just really been a tough scene for me.
So I'll move into the defense. D-line got decent pressure, like Colin said. I still think AG needs to blitz more. I think he will against Baker.
Dude, they blitz a lot, Trent. That's all they do.
Well, yes, but it works when they do, is my point. It works because the secondary is not very good. So you have to get after the quarterback to make him get it out quick. And Hutchinson's sacks were cheap. I mean, if you watch the game, like, he just touches guys down. Doesn't change the fact that his motor doesn't shut off for the entire game, and he gets more pressure than almost anybody. He also gets held more than anyone in the league, and it's so frustrating. I see videos after every single game.
He flops every time
But he gets held, is my point. Yes.
No, he does. He was awesome. That's the best game I can remember him playing. He was great all day.
Last thing on the defense, you got away without forcing any turnovers. I don't think that's going to happen again. So, against the Bucs here, you got to get after them. You got to catch a pass or two when Baker throws it to you, force a fumble, make a play. And some big picture things real quick. You guys nailed the Dan Campbell stuff. He completely outcoached Sean McVay, which I didn't really see happening. I didn't think it would cost the Lions the game, but I definitely thought Sean McVay would have the aces up his sleeve. For him to have to take timeouts because Ford Field was so loud, and they couldn't get the play in. And by the way, that is a coaching decision to take those timeouts. You can take the 5-yard penalty and keep the timeouts.
No,
you
that's
can argue.
I don't understand that. I don't get it. I don't get why coaches do that.
You can argue that, like, keeping your timeouts is more important than going to 2nd and 10 as opposed to 2nd and 5 with 2 timeouts. So there's that. And last but not least, the aggression at the end of that game to close the thing out by Dan Campbell, Ben Johnson, whoever was behind that, Jared Goff, I don't really know. Whoever was behind the game plan to, we're passing the ball, we're getting this first down, we're ending this game. A+. Incredible stuff. It was shades of that Chargers game where it's like, okay, we could play conservatively here, play the numbers, and, we can hope that we don't lose, but we still give the ball back with 30 seconds. No, this Lions fan base, this organization, a lot of the coaching staff that's been around football for a long time, they've seen Matthew Stafford drive down the field in 20 seconds. Hell, he did it in the Super Bowl. He did it in the NFC Championship game on his Super Bowl run. So you don't want to give that ball back. And for the Lions to go right to Josh Reynolds and then Amon-Ra, it was beautiful. Chef's kiss. When they got the first down, I was still up in the stands, kind of. I think a lot of people didn't understand it was mathematically over. I didn't. I didn't get it. And then you saw Goff take the knee, and it was just that Collins, that felt like the whole Tillman inbound to Cassius, and he's got the ball and just throws it up.
Dude, I couldn't even wrap my head around. Like, I was so nervous. Like, is this game over? I just couldn't tell.
Yeah,
no one could when the game was over.
And it was awesome. And then you just hear the groundswell, the slow roar just build up to a climax, and everyone's like, holy shit, they did it. And that's when the tears started flowing and everyone was happy. And you immediately, 30 minutes, you start walking out of that stadium. I remember walking out and I told my brothers, I'm like, guys, hey, let's just take a second here. Let's just take a second and look at the field.
Dude,
check the confetti.
Because were like how many times stadium for a half hour after the game?
How many times, Rabs, have we walked out of that stadium pissed off or happy that the Lions won, but they won to move to 6-8 or something like that? And it's like, we just want a playoff game. You got to take it in. It is what it is. Great win for the Lions. Don't want to spend too much time on it, but hell, we deserve to go a little over on the time for this episode. So one pride, great win, impressive all around. Really no weaknesses other than the secondary, and we'll get into the Bucs game, I guess.
Yeah, before we get into that, just so we can finally put it to bed, essentially. I guess, Trent, you were in the stadium, and again, you can listen to last week's episode when it comes to the whole Stafford thing. I think as a guy like myself, who and all my friends give me shit of like, who you're rooting for in this game, like, fuck, miss me with that shit. But I do think, as Trent and I were saying, like, as a Stafford fan, like, I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to see him go out there and get embarrassed. He did have the one sack where he, like, tripped over his own feet. But, like, I wasn't looking for him to go out there and get embarrassed or get injured. And he did get fucked up, but he came back in the game because he's a warrior. But he played as good as you could. And you beat Stafford at essentially what was his best. So, as far as all that stuff is concerned, and I don't even know if you guys care to insert your opinions about it, but it is just like, again, when he came out on the field with Carson Wentz for warmups or whatever it was, is all quarterbacks do on visiting teams. He did get showered with boos. I politely clapped. I didn't stand up. Politely clapped. No one really gave me shit for it. But it is just like, and I'm curious to get your opinions. And I know the whole Kelly Stafford thing with her initially saying that like people were booing her kids, and then she backtracked and said like, no, they were actually booing me. Like, I don't care for the drama, but I do think there's this weird cohort of like people that have animosity towards Stafford now because of him, because he said he was happy for the players in the post game and didn't say he was happy for the city. And I'm ready to put this to bed. And in a two-part scenario here, I do want to address the Jared Goff thing because I did make some claims last week that I want to double down on. But as far as the Stafford thing is concerned, was I disappointed that people booed him? I guess. But when you're in the heat of battle and like when you're in the stadium, like I totally get it. People were ravenous. Like people were ready to fucking go. So like, yeah, it was unfortunate that he got booed. And then when the Rams all came out, you heard on like the NFL Films thing afterwards where he was mic'd up. He was like, let's go, bring it on, whatever. Because he's a competitor. I don't take anything that was said in the post game. Like I take it all with a grain of salt because literally 10 to 15 minutes before the press conference, he had just lost the playoff game as a guy that's a competitor. And I'm sure as he'd probably never tell you, I'm sure he probably wanted to come in there and stick it to everyone and show you like, yeah, I'm still fucking that guy. And, it didn't work out here and whatever you guys want to boo me, whatever. I would like to think that he doesn't have any animosity towards the city. There's scumbag people in every fan base. So people that were booing, Kelly Stafford and her kids or whatever, like it is what it is. I don't care anymore. I would like to see next year when the Rams come to Detroit, give him his flowers. I don't think there needs to be any like Lions fans don't need to boo this guy when he comes back to Detroit next year because you've accomplished what you wanted to. You beat him. You beat him. You beat the Rams. You moved on. The Jared Goff chants, I always looked at like it's the proverbial pat on the back, like, hey, we got you, buddy. Go do your thing. Like, I don't think there needs to be any type of animosity towards Matthew Stafford. Me as the biggest Stafford sucker of all time, I'm ready to put it to bed. Like, he won his Super Bowl. The Lions got past him in the best case scenario. Like, yeah, all the fucking drama and shit's kind of a bit much, but when he comes back to Ford Field next year, give him his flowers, do his video. You should probably retire his number or put him in the Ring of Honor because there's really not many people that deserve that in the history of the Lions because of how bad you've been, and you can move on with your life. I'm sorry that Kelly Stafford bothers people the way that she does. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, enough is enough, for God's sake. Like, I don't know. Like, it was like the first thing people talked about on Monday was on the radio was like, oh, Kelly Stafford's comments. Like, it's so ridiculous.
Right. Know what it is? Lions fans are complete sickos. They're sickos. That's what it is. And I got a couple buddies who are sick. First of all, I love the Lions more than that side. I don't give a fuck what Kelly Stafford says. I don't pay one single iota. I don't listen to it. Who's listening to Kelly Stafford's podcast? I have no idea. Like, who cares? Who's first of all, people are booing Kelly Stafford. What weird? It's
weirdos.
Weird.
Yeah, weirdos.
It's bizarre.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. Like, why do you hate Kelly Stafford so much? It legit makes no sense. So I don't necessarily understand that, but but at the end of the day with the Stafford thing, and you said he was pissed off after the game. Are you guys
offended by what he said? Like, does it change your tenor of him?
Fuck? And like the Kirby Joseph thing, he's defending his player. Who gives a fuck? This is the one thing that I don't understand what's going on with some Lions fans. Can we just care about our fucking team? Our team's fucking good. I'm tired of hearing from Minnesota fans. Tired from everyone getting concerned about them. Who gives a fuck if they say about Kirby Joseph? I don't. Guess what? He's fucking playing on Sunday, and we had a fucking chance for the NFC to like. Let's just care about the Lions. I don't get it. I don't.
Yes.
No, but you know what? I get.
Yes.
I understand though, in the point where it's like she was trying to make Lions fans look bad and like stuff like. I understand that, and there was a lot of like. There was the Slay thing today where I think he was just standing up. I'm pretty sure Slay and him are like best friends. Like they're really good friends.
Darius Slay can kiss my ass too, by the way.
Why?
Because his bitterness towards the Lions or whatever, and he thinks
he has no bitterness. What are you talking about?
Yeah, he does. He makes comments about
the quote. Then. You misread the quote.
No. I'm not this quote about Stafford. I'm just saying that in the past too, I feel like he
hated Patricia.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fair.
That's why he didn't hate Detroit. You're wrong about that.
Patricia coaches for the Eagles.
He hates Patricia. That was a whole thing.
Why is he on the Eagles then?
Patricia was not on the Eagles when he went to the Eagles, dude.
Well, why would they hire him?
Because this is a completely different story.
Yeah, stay on track. Sorry.
Whatever. Slay, like the Slay thing, he was just defending his guy. Like, whatever. Like, people get so butthurt about these small accounts. Who gives a fuck? I don't care. I don't understand why people care about shit like this. It's crazy to me, but it is what it is. I thought like that's what should have happened. It's a playoff game. He should have got booed. There should have been nasty. He should have been pissed off the entire time. It's a playoff game. It means something. If you're not putting your fucking emotions on the line, if you're the fans or you're Stafford, you're not defending your guys. Like what do you want him to say after the post game? Oh, I want to go over there and give Jared Goff a hand job too. Like what do you want Stafford to say after the game?
I will say this. I love. Did you guys see what Calvin said?
That was funny.
What
Where
did
he
he
said, I
say?
need you
I
to throw
didn't-
2 or 3, not to your team.
Yeah,
he was like, I need you to throw 1 or 2. I'm not talking about touchdowns. It was
was
great.
funny. Yeah, but like, I thought everyone handled themselves pretty well. I don't think I truly don't understand why people care about the Kelly Stafford thing. It is what it is. I'll that is not where my sports. That is not where my sports brain goes. Like where people who I don't necessarily think are informed or are genuinely someone I would listen to. Why would I give them any credence to what they're saying? Like, why do I care what Kelly Stafford says? Why would I
for one day? For one day, it's fine. Now it's Thursday. Let's move on. The fact that it's still on my timeline is annoying.
It's crazy.
I'm with you, but
I'll let you go, Trent. But I thought everyone handled themselves the way they should have handled themselves, and it is what it is. The Lions should have booed him. He doesn't. Guess what? He can fucking be pissed. He got booed. I would be. Know what I mean? Like he's not gonna be all happy thoughts. It is what it is. It's a playoff game. They're gonna give him a nice ceremony. People are going to cheer for him. That people love Stafford in this city. That's like the thing. There's a vocal minority. Most people love Matthew Stafford. And the problem is there were, no offense, Rabs, there were people like you who thought he was the second coming to Jesus. And there would be people that would buck up against that. And just point blank, he's a great quarterback.
Collins, it was literally like politics. It was like the 10% on both ends of the spectrum, the extremes were the ones that were fighting, and everyone else in the middle was like,
it was like 70% of the city was like, he's a tough motherfucker. He's got a rocket arm, and he's a great. If you have 2 minutes left on the clock, you want him with the football, point blank. But at the end of the day, he never really won a big game in Detroit, which some of that is on him. So that's the Matthew Stafford thing. People love him in this city. He's going to get a great ovation when he comes back next year. Guess what? That's a reception you should get in a playoff game. And anyone who had a problem with that, if he had a problem with that, he's wrong. But he didn't. I think he was accepting of it. You watch all the sights and sounds and shit like that. He was fucking into it, which I love.
Yeah. This doesn't change the big picture on Matt Stafford at all, I don't think. So
no, it doesn't.
I don't really have any thoughts other than, I mean,
people my thoughts on fuck Stafford, all the goodwill in 12 years with saying you're a dirty player, the Kirby Joseph. Who gives a fuck? It's his teammate. He's defending his teammate. You guys are crazy. It's in the heat of battle.
Playoffs. So it blows over because it's the playoffs. And guess what? We're still in it. They're not. So the Collins point,
fucking get over.
If you're mad about it, move on. I don't feel any different.
Sorry.
I don't feel any different about Matthew Stafford than I did before the game. I love 100%. Matthew Stafford. I will always remember him as the best Lion of my lifetime up until, maybe unless well, Calvin, but what you get my point. Like he was the guy who stuck around. He was there for 12 years. I get it. Blah, blah, blah. We played him in the playoffs. We beat him in 20 years. Am I going to think about the fact that he said something to Kirby Joseph? No. So Collins is exactly right. Whatever. You got past them, and like you said, Rabs, best case scenario for the Lions and Matthew Stafford because it means that next year he'll probably get a warmer welcome for a regular season game that I think will probably be a primetime matchup in Ford Field.
He will get an extremely warm reception. I don't
he will.
People who act like he's not, he will get, there will be a standing ovation. If he got booed, I would be shocked. So whatever.
That's all.
I'll lose my fucking mind if he gets booed, but
that'd be weird. I just don't get it. That would just be weird. I could not see that happening.
But anyway, before we do the Tampa game, Jared Goff tipped the cap. You've earned my respect. Not that he was tremendous in the second half, but he deserves whatever this extension is they're going to work out for him. He deserves it. And nobody is, and I'm not saying this, and I know that nobody is saying he is the most talented quarterback and the best athlete in the world. But the bottom line is he has got the job done for your team. And I think he has the respect of the locker room. The city loves him, right, wrong, or indifferent. And no, he does not deserve to sign a 5-year, $500 million contract given his age and his lack of ability. But thank you, because, and I know it doesn't always fall on the quarterback, good or bad, but the bottom line is he did exactly enough that you needed him to win that game. So everyone that gives me shit about being a Goff hater, I am willing to lay down the sword, and I'm moving on from the Stafford thing. Credit to me. But now we roll in So this coming Sunday at 3 o'clock Eastern time, the Detroit Lions will host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the divisional round of the 2024 NFL playoffs. The winner of this game will face the winner of the San Francisco 49ers and Green Bay Packers. There is once again an avenue in which the Lions host another home playoff game, because if the Packers win and the Lions win, the Packers will be at Ford Field. I also do want to say something, too, that I think made this even more special is the fact that the Lions played the Rams, who really don't have a real fan base, was tremendous. And I know that Tampa, and you saw that game against Philly, the Tampa, there's Tampa fans out there. I'm not going to diminish that fan base. Also cool as fuck that the Red Wings play the Lightning at home that night, too. So a double.
They moved puck drop, too.
They did double down Tampa game. I was also able to get that game off so I can enjoy my Sunday watching the Lions. But I digress. I think it was awesome that Ford Field got to be pretty much 99% Lions fans. I don't know what the Tampa Bay fan base will look like in Ford Field on Sunday. But again, just talk about markets. I mean, everything works out. Karma's a bitch. Ball don't lie. Whatever you want to say. The Cowboys look like fucking dog shit against the Packers. And because of that, it all works out. The Dallas game is essentially irrelevant. You get to have if anything, I'm more happy that the Lions got to lose that game and that the Cowboys got to lose in the first round of the playoffs again. So it all works out. So I think they're a 6.5 or a 7-point favorite here on Sunday.
Yeah, it's up to 6.5. It opened at like 4, and then it instantly went to 6, and now it's at 6.5. So
we'll do the picks. But as far as analysis for this game, as we all know, the Lions did beat the Buccaneers on the road. I think it was 20-6 early in the year. And I remember when we talked about this team, I feel like the Bucs were 4-0 at the time, right? Or something.
They were 3-1 winning their division. Yes.
And I know going into that game, none of us were scared to play that game. I thought the 3-1 was incredibly fraudulent. I didn't think anything of the Bucs at that time. I thought nothing of Baker Mayfield. And I will tell you that this Buccaneers team is different, but at the same time, too, is a team that also kind of limped into the playoffs, like barely beating the Panthers before they saw the Eagles. And the Eagles were dog shit going into the playoffs. Like, I'll tell you this, it is ridiculous as Lions fans to overlook this game because, again, as much as we want to pump the Lions tires and they are a good football team, the playoffs are hard for anyone. I don't care who you're playing. I don't care what your team looks like or what you think of these teams. Every game is hard. And yes, the Lions beat the brakes off the Bucs earlier this year on the road. No, I don't think Baker Mayfield is a good quarterback, but you cannot diminish what that team has done. I'm just giving you the facts of how they did sort of limp into the playoffs and kind of didn't backdoor their way in because they were winning their division. They did enough to win their division, and now here they are. And they did dismantle the Eagles. I don't care how poor the Eagles look towards the end of the season. And that's a story in and of itself that I don't care to spend time on. But they got the job done. They won big. Now they're coming to Ford Field. I guess that game does hold some weight that the Lions played the Bucs in earlier this year. But I think both of these teams are different. I think both of these teams are better. I think the Bucs are a very physical football team. And there is no reason to look ahead to an NFC championship game. I'm sorry. I think it's stupid. And I think it's so irresponsible to already be talking about playing the Niners or hosting the Packers at home. Like, you have to go 1-0 this week. And I believe that Dan Campbell has his team in the right mindset. It is going to be very, very tough for this Bucs team to come in here and play on Sunday. And I am not a Baker Mayfield guy. I don't have any faith that he can come in here and win this game. And I think if you're a Lions
how did you feel on Monday night when he was awesome?
Well, on Monday night, I looked at an Eagles team that was essentially, they had
the worst. It's the worst defense in the league. Worst defense.
The Eagles started the year.
I don't even care. I just know how much Rab hates Baker, which it still makes no sense.
He played great, but like,
I just don't get why you hate him so much.
Well, I just think he's an arrogant prick, and I don't think he has any reason to be arrogant. But the point I'm getting at with Baker is like, if you think that what you saw on Monday night was like, that's Baker Mayfield, I got news for you. It's not. And whether it's
He's
this
been good
game,
this year, dude. He's been good this year.
In terms of Baker Mayfield, he absolutely is, but he's having a career year.
In terms of the NFL, he's been good this year.
Great. He's having a career year. I'm so happy for him. All I'm telling you is he's not some top 10 premier quarterback in this league.
He's not Stafford.
He's not. You're right.
No, he's a worse quarterback. I agree. He is solid. If you have a run, I think the thing is the Bucs defense is legit fucking good. I think
they're very good.
You don't even want to look at the Tampa offense. The defense is legit good, and they can make this a nasty, ugly game. And to be honest, I could see that happening. It was a kind of a nasty, ugly game in Tampa, and then the Lions had a couple big plays and took control of that. This front, I mean, Vita Vea is a monster. I mean, Levante David, I feel like he's been playing on the Bucs for 30 years at this point. I mean, Trent, Trent's down there, so he's going to know a lot more about this team than that defense and flat out play. They can. And Mike Evans, you never know when he's going to go off for like 200 yards. And the Lions have been prone to these big game receivers fucking shredding them. So they got to figure out a game plan in that aspect and not let Godwin get loose either. But I don't understand the line. I do think the line should be at about 4. I do think the Lions are better. I expect them to win this football game. 7 is way too much. I don't think a lot of like the Bucs are. I'm not saying the Bucs are great, and there were moments this year like they were probably not even a good team. And you'll look back to that Panthers game, we won 9-0. I think Baker was literally playing at like 30% in that game. So like I am concerned because I think their defense is one of the only defenses in the league that is really a tough matchup for our offensive line because they are big and physical. I think it does fall on Goff this week, but at the end of the day, he proved it to you last week that he could get it done in a big spot. So I think you're going to need a big Jared Goff game because they're not going to be able to run the football like they were last week. They're just not going to be.
Before we get to Trent, I was going to say too, and you brought up a good point that what we have seen first of all, the Lions in that Tampa Bay game earlier this year was probably one of the best games they played all year defensively. But the key is going to be, and I've always said this all year, is how does your offense show up with those good defenses? Because as we've seen, the Lions defense ain't stopping anyone for the most part. Like you are going to see your games where Puka Nacua had almost 200 fucking yards last game. Like that between Godwin and Evans, and they used Kate Otten a lot in that game. Tampa Bay did against the Eagles. Like they're going to put up some numbers. It's going to be a matter of can you play that defense tough and score some points. So Trent, as far as your analysis of the game, I'll turn it over to you.
Collins alluded to it. I do have somewhat of a unique perspective on this because for the last 2 months, I've been, the show that I work on, we talk Bucs for at least an hour a day. And we have some great guests who call in, who cover the team, who bring the analysis. And the thought is that, from their perspective, they're looking at this Detroit team and they don't know what they're going to do against Amon-Ra St. Brown because the Bucs like to blitz, but Jared Goff statistically is very, very good against the blitz.
He's been great against the blitz this year.
And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they scheme guys open. I mean, it's Laporta, Gibbs, and St. Brown. Just instant, they're open. Someone's open. Boom, hit them. And Goff gets that thing out. And to Jared's credit, I mean, this year more than any other year that I've watched him play, and we all have watched him play quite a few years now, he's been taking hits. He's been sitting in the pocket, getting the ball out, taking hits. So that's what the Bucs' main focus is right now. At least that's the talk of the town down here. They don't really know how they're going to contain Amon-Ra because last time when these teams met in Week 6, and I think the Bucs were 3-1 coming off their bye week going into that game, and the Lions just took it to them, which was awesome. But the Lions were extremely shorthanded in that game. They didn't have Gibbs.
Yes.
They didn't have Gibbs. Montgomery went out, and I think the second quarter he only rushed for 14 yards. Team rushed for less than 100 yards in the game, and this is a Lions team that was a top 3 rushing team all season. So Goff was fantastic that game. He threw for 353 yards, Amon-Ra had 124 of those yards and a touchdown. That was in the Bucs' place. Lions won by 14, of course. Baker was horrible. Collins mentioned he was banged up, but he only threw for 51% completion, 206 yards, 0 touchdowns, and a pick. The Lions got out in front early, made them throw, and what you see is what you get. The key here, and Rabs, I'm glad you brought up Cade Otton. He only had 1 catch in that first Lions matchup for, I think, 15 yards. Bucs hadn't really figured out how to work him in yet. Cade Otton is now a key cog in that offense. They have Evans and Godwin. And to your point, Rabs, those guys are going to make plays just like Nacua and Kupp made plays for the Rams. Kupp much less so than Nacua. But either way, I look at it very, very, very simply. And I know you could say this about a lot of football games. You win the turnover battle, you win. It's 100% the case this week. Baker Mayfield is a lesser quarterback than Stafford. Everyone knows that. We all agree here. He's going to throw you a couple. Got to catch them. Got to make them pay. Got to convert. And this Lions, I mean, Collins, you talk about the Bucs defense, and I agree. The Bucs defense is stout. They got Vita Vea up the middle. He's one of the largest human beings I've ever seen in my entire life. You got to try to establish the run, but if it doesn't work, you can't necessarily abandon it, but you got to have something in the back pocket. So I think this is a big Ben Johnson game. It's a big Jared Goff game. And look, the Lions should win. They're the better team, top to bottom. Just be the Lions.
Yeah.
Force a couple turnovers, run the ball, keep Jared up on third down. I think you should win. I think you should cover. And with that, I guess we can get into the picks. But one last thing I want to mention is the way I see this playing out. I'm going to say this now. I'm going to call my shot on this now because this is outlandish, but that's what we do on this show. So the revenge tour. It's kind of been the revenge tour so far. You beat Stafford at home. Then you get another home playoff game by the grace of God. Baker Mayfield kept you out of the playoffs last year. People forget.
I saw that video. I forgot about that.
People forget. Baker Mayfield was 90% of the reason you missed the playoffs last year. Rams had a real chance to beat the Seahawks last year to put the Lions in as the 7th seed, and Baker threw a horrendous pick to Quandre Diggs, and the rest is history. You come back this year with a vengeance. You take care of business. You're the team you're supposed to be. The revenge tour can continue on Sunday. Get after Baker Mayfield. Get after him. And then, you know what? Dare I say, the Packers go into Santa Clara and beat the San Francisco 49ers, and you get to play your division rival who embarrassed you on Thanksgiving for a chance to go to the fucking Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? I mean,
against the Ravens, who embarrassed you on national television earlier this year.
Preach, Rabs. The revenge tour could continue. It could. It's on the table. It starts this Sunday against Baker.
When Michigan
Put Baker on his
was
ass.
the gayest thing ever, so.
I wanna ask you guys one thing before we move on to the picks, because it's a talking point that I heard earlier today on the radio, and I think it brings up a good point. Has the goalpost moved for you now that the Lions are where they are? Do you feel, and I'm not saying this in terms of if the Lions don't win this game is the season, because anyone that would suggest, and there is someone on 97.1 The Ticket that did suggest this earlier today, which caused me to have an aneurysm in my car, to suggest that this season didn't mean anything or it was fraudulent or a disappointment if the Lions don't win on Sunday. But has the goalpost moved for you? Like,
No.
Are you going to, how do you feel?
Gravy.
How would you feel if they lose this game? I guess
I'd be disappointed. I would still... I would not. It depends how they would lose. I would obviously be
It doesn't even depend for me. It doesn't even depend for me. I would have no qualms about this coach, this GM, this culture, this fan base, any of it.
That's not a question. That's not the question. I would be. They should win this game. That's why I would be disappointed. And you have an opportunity. It's still all gravy.
Yep,
okay,
100%. We don't need to spend too much time on it because I think we all agree.
Well,
yes,
they have. It has been a successful year already. So anything they do more is gravy.
You did 2 things you haven't done in 30 years. You won the division, you won the playoff game. This regime's looking bright as ever. And yes, while it would be disappointing to lose to the Buccaneers because you're head and shoulders a better team, you're a touchdown favorite for a reason. I mean, again, don't want to get ahead of myself. We'll let the game play out and we'll talk about it next week, win or lose. But it wouldn't change my tune on this regime or anyone in this organization going into next season. I would still roll into next year expecting the Lions to win another 12 games and win the division again. You know what I mean? So, Rabs, I know who you're referring to on 97.1. I agree. with all the points that you made about this individual.
It's ridiculous.
The goalposts have not moved for me at all.
Huh?
Who said it?
Rico.
Oh well, I mean Rico. That guy.
Like his whole point today
Rico,
was
I'm like convinced he does not watch sports.
He goes,
only
well,
watches Michigan State
this is what he
sports.
said today. He goes, Mike, the way I see it, or what I mean is, if the Lions go out and lose this game, like 31-17, 31-14, 28, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude, I get it. He's like, now you're in a situation where you might be thinking that, was this season fraudulent? Was the win? And I'm like, dude, are you fucking kidding me?
No,
Are you serious?
He's just wrong. I don't take any stock in what that guy says. So
last thing I'll say, because you know what? Everything's on the board, of course. It's football. You got to play the games for a reason. If Jared Goff sucks, the Lions are going to be in trouble. But if Baker Mayfield sucks, the Lions will win by 3 touchdowns. That's all. Like, it's that simple. Go win the game. Be the Lions.
I'm going to be honest. If the Lions don't turn the ball over, they should win that. Like, they will win this game. Just can't turn the football over. And that they are one of the best teams in the league at doing that. So,
all right, let's get to the picks. This Sunday, 3:00 divisional game. Lions host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the first divisional playoff game in the history of Ford Field. Is this the first home divisional game ever?
No.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it is.
No, the Cowboys in '93.
Oh, they hosted
that was divisional. Yes, my bad. Because then they went and got spanked by the Redskins.
Correct.
Okay. 6.5. Lions are a 6.5 point favorite. The total is at 49.5. I'm going to take the under in this game. I just feel like if the last game between these two teams was indicative of anything, it's that the Lions defense can handle themselves relatively well against Baker Mayfield. I hope that's the case. Knock on wood this week. So I'm going to go under 49.5. I'm going to take the Lions here. I think they're a touchdown better. I do. I think I just think the Lions are so much more complete in every way, shape, and form. I don't have a lot of respect for the Buccaneers in terms of their quarterback play, in terms of their coaching. I just don't see it. So, and I do want to make a note too that the Lions are playing in a dome. This game is indoors. I know that also made national news this week as well.
His reaction was very funny.
I mean, he did as well as he could have with that question. Yeah. That is tough, but give me the Lions and give me the under.
I like the under, and I like the Bucs to cover. The Lions will win this game. I just said 7 is a lot of points in a playoff game. There's been a lot of big lines in these play like that.
But we've seen a couple. I mean, we've seen some blowouts.
No, you're right. But like that Bills Steelers game was a 10-point line. I can't remember. Like the Steelers aren't great, but they're not like a dead team. You know what I mean? I can't remember the last time I saw a team like who's not completely dead plus 10. But I don't know. I just said 7 is way too much. I like the Lions. I think they win comfortably. Maybe a little backdoor. 7 is just a lot of points. I don't know.
Yeah, it is, but it's not for this team in this situation. I'll take the Lions to win 35-20, and I feel very confident saying that. I think Jared Goff plays well as long as the O-line keeps him upright. And like Colin said, if you don't turn the ball over, you should win the game. So 35-20, what is that, 55? I will go over. I will go Lions to win and cover.
All right, I love it. Anything else we want to throw in there? What are your plans? What are you guys doing for this game?
I'll probably be down in Detroit again.
I think I'm going to host people at my house because my parents are going to that game. Just make a bunch of food. That's the thing. I would love to go down there and be in the mix.
I don't live that far away. It's pretty easy. It's like a $25 Uber.
It's just hard. It's super hard for me to watch games at bars. It just
I didn't watch a game at a bar.
I know, and that's why I'm like you got a good setup, but it's just I don't want to Uber from Novi to Detroit and back. Yeah, I don't want to have to drive. I don't want to have it. Just I would love to be down there, but I don't want to have to deal with the stress of like getting back home to watch that game, and I really don't want to watch it at like the fucking tin roof.
Well, it's
No.
also different that it's not an 8:00 kick this time. It's at 3, so it's a little different. You know,
3 is, by the way, the perfect time for a Sunday kick.
Oh, it totally is. I'm just saying it changes you don't have all day to party. You know, it's kind of like you gotta
Get down there early.
You got to get down there early. In Rab's case, if you're trying to get home, you got to leave at like 1:30 to make sure you make it home for kick.
Yeah.
Dude, I can't watch it at a bar down here because it'll be all Tampa fans. I will be going to my aunt and uncle's place probably, and
Are they
holding on
Lions
for dear
fans?
life. Yeah, my aunt's a diehard. She's my dad's sister, so she's
Oh,
you
okay.
know, but she
That'll be
married
fun.
my uncle who's from Pittsburgh, so he's a Steelers fan, but he roots for us, so it's all big, kumbaya.
Yeah, that'll be good.
So,
You gotta
So-
be with the people you love.
So
yeah,
Trent,
my uncle
who's
also is a huge foodie. He loves to like smoke meat and stuff, so I'm sure there'll be a great spread going on for the Lions game.
that's what I gotta
they,
get the smoker going.
they gotta win this game, man. They gotta win
Babs,
this
do you have a
game.
smoker?
Yeah, well, I have a Weber kettle which you can smoke meat on. Everyone
I'm
wants
just
to go
saying,
out
you
and buy.
just seem like a guy who loves to smoke meat.
Well, all right, that sounds a little gross. We can use
No,
that as
but
a
you know what I
drop.
mean.
Yeah, I do. Dude, I
Like,
trust
you're
me.
definitely a guy, like, I will, like, work on a brisket for 12 hours, sit, have an IPA.
Yeah,
Just
I mean,
relax.
dude, Collins, if you and your friends all want to come down to Novi, you're more than welcome to. I know you got your own thing going, but and that's going to be a tough drive from Detroit. But I don't know what I'm going to do for this game, but it would be great to see them win. The sad thing about it is like I will have a hard time sleeping at night if they lose because they shouldn't. There's no way
No,
they can't lose.
I agree.
All right. Well, that's all for us
ILL.
today. That's all for us today. That's our NFC divisional preview. I can't believe we had an episode like this. If it's a sign of things to come, we're in good shape. That's all for today's episode of the Motown Rundown. For Trent Bailey and Ryan Collins, I am Ryan Rabinowitz. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Motown_Rundown. We are also on Facebook at the Motown Rundown page. We are also now on YouTube. All of our episodes will be broadcasted there. You can watch all the recordings there. I think we're just at Motown Rundown on YouTube. You can watch the episodes. We're also exclusively streaming on Spotify for the time being. So give us a follow on Spotify. We have new episodes for you every single week. We'll see. Ford Field, it's going to be the place to be on Sunday, and hopefully we're here next week as we always are talking about another victory. Love you guys. Thanks for listening. See you next time.